What is this monstrosity of a question? Just going to be doing the same things we've been doing, but doing it a few more times. So there's one added tactic, I should say, to do this, and those are this cos 180 and this sine 270. Anything that's on an axis, so it's not 180 plus something, or it's just 90, 180, 270, 360, calculate it and put your answer in. So let's go through this step by step, but those two we're going to do quickly on our calculator and just say, well, there's our calculator right here, right? So cos of 180 equals minus 1. Of course, you can do this from the cast diagram or from the graph, but I'm just going to say that's minus 1, so that's minus 1. And sine of 270, again, we're just using the cheat of the calculator, so that's minus 1. So that's actually quite handy because they're just going to cancel out. Okay, so minus 1, minus 1. So that's made life a little bit easier. Those two are done. Now let's keep moving our way around, and of course, what do we have? Our trusty and squiggly cast diagram. And here we go, xy. We know we've got C, A, S, T, and we're starting at 0, and we go around to 90, 180, 270, 360. In other words, if we're in the first quadrant, our angles are acute between 0 and 90. Let's just figure out where each of these angles sits. Tan 180 minus x. If we're dealing with 180 minus, we know that it's going to be tan of, not theta, they said x this time, doesn't really matter. Now we just need to know, is it positive or negative? So 180, here's 180, and we're minusing, so we must be over here, because we've gone backwards, so this whole angle is 180 minus x, because that's x. So we're in sine, so negative, because only sine is positive there. And so we go. Sine of 360 minus x. 360 minus, so we're going backwards. So there's x, we're sitting in this quadrant. So this is, I'm going to put in brackets and leave a bit of space for this sign, plus or minus if I need it, and go, well, that's x, we're in cos, nope, that's sine, so this must be a negative. And our last one is cos of 180 minus x. Well, that's also going to be over here, and we're in sines quadrant, as if it has ownership of it, and we've got sine of x, sine, no, what am I thinking sine? Cos, because it's cos over here, 180 minus sine, so it must be negative, cos of x. Okay, so now step after this, we're going to figure out a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative is going to give us a positive. I'm going to put that there. Then we've got what else going on? A couple of things on the denominator. Let's go purple. So we've got cos of 180 plus x. Okay, so 180, there's 180, and we've gone a little bit further because plus x, so we've gone down here. And therefore we're in tan's quadrant. We're in quadrant 3, so tan's positive. This is cos, so this is going to become negative cos x. And our last one, running out of colors even, bright green, let's go. And we've got this, we've got tan of x 180 plus, oh, we're also down here, so I'm just going to double it up and say, okay, well, we're in tan, so that's going to be positive as well. Let's figure out our signs. We said negative times negative times negative times negative. 4 negatives makes positive. Negative, negative also gives us a positive on the bottom. Tan x, there's a tan x, there's a tan x, there's a cos x, there's a cos x. What are we left with? We're left with that sine x. On the denominator, we're left with 1. So if we simplified that, then we just have sine of x. Now, if you really didn't have anything to do for the rest of the afternoon, you could substitute a value for x in here and punch this all into your calculator and see how it's the same as sine of that angle. Not worth it. Don't do it. Don't.